What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. This is our top 10 hottest selling comics of the week, our weekly video series brought to you by PopCultureZone.com. Before we get into this week's top 10 books, don't forget to check out PopCultureZone.com's. Their links are below. Check them out if you're interested in getting your hands on some awesome exclusive and incentive variants at affordable costs, CGC slabs, and of course all different kinds of pop culture items, including toys and statues. And if you're buying raw books, they ship at a flat rate fee of only $4.99. You also do not pay taxes, with the exception of New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they still hold a 100% customer feedback rating with over 8,000 ratings this year alone. So again, those links are below to their website and their eBay store. Check them out and make sure you follow them on eBay as well.
What we like to do is talk really quickly through the top 10 hottest comics, but the fun in it is you picking out the 3 most interesting books off of that list. And you got opinions. You always got opinions, Chris. And we're just going to get right into those top 10 hottest comics of the week. That is right. At number 10, we have Deadpool Black, White and Blood. Number 4, the 1 in 25 Dan Panosian cover. Number 9, we have Moon Knight. Number 3, the Walmart variant. At number 8, Captain Britain and MI-13. Number 1, Kamikaze actually ran into a bunch of those. At number 7, we have Eternals number 1. Number 6, The Thing number 1, Lee Bermejo variant. That variant is just gorgeous, by the way. Number 5, Avengers number 6, the first appearance of Azari Tachila. At number 4, Avengers number 62, the first appearance of M'Baku. At number 3, Avengers number 1, first cameo appearance of Azari Tachila. Number 2, X-Men Adventures number 1. And at number 1, we have Strange Academy 13, that Art Adams cover. That is hot.
All right, yeah, Marvel dominated all 10. I do got to say, Eternals number 1, still on the list, but I didn't pick it. My number 3 pick is Avengers 62, first appearance of M'Baku, Man 8. I have been talking about this book for a long time, ultimately probably since Chadwick Boseman's passing, unfortunately. Not that I want to boast of those circumstances, but of course, when that happened, we all are left with, or were left with, the question of, what does this mean for the future of Black Panther, T'Challa, the franchise and the MCU and so forth. And almost immediately, people jumped all over Shuri. And I mean immediately, like almost that same night as he passed. And Jeff and I both, we went months without really even talking about anything Black Panther, because we just felt, out of respect for this real life human being, that people were speculating on the death of a human. It was a rough time, but of course, time moves on. We are here to talk about comics and in the movies that assist these comics on the market. And ultimately, when that time came about, I was big on talking about M'Baku taking up the mantle of Black Panther, because we all know Black Panther is a mantle. We also know that the executives with Marvel Studios have been very firm, including Kevin Feige, talking about T'Challa will not be recast. His legacy will carry on, and most likely that mantle will be carried on with it. What does that mean? Well, again, let's look at Shuri. Let's look at M'Baku. I don't feel it fitting for Shuri to get the mantle in this next film. From where we left off, from seeing her at the end of Black Panther, the first film, and of course, what we saw in Endgame, Infinity War and Endgame, I don't see it working really and making it believable that she's just going to become this warrior this quick, pick up the mantle of Black Panther and sit on the throne. M'Baku is much more primed for that. M'Baku is a leader of one of the tribes that has the ability to come in, not only just govern, but to lead. He has that worthiness within his heart, in my humble opinion, from how they fleshed out the character in the MCU. And I've said this from the beginning too. I've said this from the beginning. I think him taking up the mantle will be temporary, and he will pass it on to Shuri when the time is right. I even think there's a possibility of them becoming a love interest of each other and sharing the mantle or the throne together. I don't know. These are all my theories, but let's look at what this book has been doing. How about that? 204% upward trend in sales this week. A high CGC sale in an 8.0 sold for $695. The previous high for an 8.0 was back in March at 250. That's 178% increase in value. So not quite triple, but close to that. Here's my take on this. I've been telling folks, if you want to invest in this, do it back then when I was talking about it. Now there's a lot of hype around it. There's a couple of things that can happen with this book. One, M'Baku might not take up the mantle, and people get discouraged and are like, oh man, shoot. And that could drop the price down some. Maybe he has a big role in the film and it keeps people involved in his character and it keeps the price level. Or he could take the mantle and it booms even more. These are all short-term possibilities. Regardless of any of those things happen, and I say this all the time with Silver Age books, especially Silver Age Keys, even if this book sees ebb and flow because of the speculative nature of what's going on, even if it dips, if M'Baku never takes up the mantle in the MCU, this is a book that will hold and increase value for the long-term investment and long-term ROI. So again, what do I always say? You all just have to do your best on being patient and educating yourself and asking what is the right price that I'm willing to pay for a book like this, and just make your move if it's something that you are looking to invest in.
Yeah, I think I got a gist of it. It's like you need to decide if you want to pick this up now because the train has left the station.
Yeah. And look, and I'll say
Duke is in Black Panther too. He is in M'Baku.
Right. M'Baku, no matter if he takes the mantle up, he's still going to be there. But this could see a dip because look, I mean, you see over the last 6 months, this is almost tripled in value. Mm-hmm. If for some reason it keeps going up, or even if it stays where it's at, and then the movie comes out and he doesn't pick up the mantle, then it might turn some buyers off and we may see a dip. But that, I'm telling you, I talk about new floors being set. That dip isn't going to be to a previous floor or anything like that. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you're really playing the lottery here, because if he plays a huge role, or if he takes up the mantle next year when we see that film come out, I don't, these prices that they're at right now are gonna, again, nobody can tell the future, but you can analyze the market. I see these prices doubling overnight. So again, you just got to be very careful with what you're doing, and you got to know what you're doing and be willing to take that risk, because it's always a risk, especially at this point in time when you didn't buy it like 2 or 3 years ago when none of this speculation was happening, really driving the value up to where it is today.
Absolutely. I'm going to answer a question real quick in between your next one. But Mojo Quid picked up both of those Azari Tachila books for $10 a few months ago. To sell or not to sell, that is the question. Here's the deal. You could definitely make a profit off of this, and everything is just speculation and rumors, right? So if you're okay actually making a few bucks, which I think you can decently do, and either add to some pot that you're trying to get a bigger book for or what have you, I would do it. Honestly, I would do it. And I would do it now because it's probably going to cool off soon. Just as long as you're okay with it potentially going way up in price if this ever does come true. We don't know.
Exactly. The same, to your point, Jeff, the same thing that I'm talking about in buying, it's the same with selling. But you right now, with the position that you're in, because you bought them so low,
can't lose.
You really can't lose, because like Jeff said, if you sell it now, you're going to make a profit. Okay. But if you sell them now and he ends up taking the mantle of Black Panther, you're missing out on a bigger profit, but you still made a profit. So you didn't lose. Now I think this might be more volatile even than M'Baku, because what did we say? M'Baku is already in the MCU. He's already a strong character. Winston Duke has done a great job portraying him. So I do think there's less volatility there, where Azari is a character that hasn't even shown up at all. And if he doesn't show up, I don't know if that book will ever be like a dollar bin book, but it could flatten right back out to $10 again. But I wouldn't even say that. I don't think it would necessarily do that, because you're still going to have people that are going to look at the MCU as this long-running entity, and you can say, well, he didn't show up in this film. Maybe he's still going to show up 5 years down the line. You never know.
Absolutely. So hopefully that answers your question. Let us know what you do, please. I'm curious. All right, Chris, your second most interesting book of the week. What do you got?
Man, I wanted so much to go pull my book out and just show it off talking about this, but I didn't. I forgot. My number 2 book is X-Men Adventures #1. We were just talking about this, Jeff, last week when we were talking about the announcement, the X-Men 97 announcement. And I'm like, man, I remember I picked this book off the newsstand, and I do believe it's a newsstand copy. I got to check though. Ugh. We're going to get into why I might be excited about that in a quick minute, but X-Men Adventures #1, based on the season 1, they did volumes of X-Men Adventures for every season that came out. This book has boomed 193% upward trend in sales this week, with a $400 9.8 CGC high. I believe, looking at the numbers, I didn't get an exact number, but when you look at about, what this book was doing less than a year ago, I think it's almost doubled in value in that 9.8. But look at this. A 9.8 CGC newsstand, $800. Madness. All I have to say about this book, folks, is for me, it's obviously extremely nostalgic. But I think this book is one that, as a early 90s book, is going to stay as a mainstay, so to say, for collectors, just because of how iconic the series was originally. That meaning the animated series, and the fact that for our generation now, getting this not reboot, it's not a reboot, it's a continuation. It's continuing the series in X-Men 97. It's bringing it to the forefront again. It's going to bring new generations into the younger generations into this book, because I can easily probably assume that a lot of the younger collectors that are like maybe 25 and under, probably a large majority of them weren't really ever looking too much at this book. I mean, this book obviously had value before, last week. This book obviously had value, but so much for the nostalgic purposes of how it relates to the X-Men animated series. Now, again, I'm not trying to stereotype or generalize, because you always have new collectors that are going back and finding things from the past, especially if you're like my kids who were growing up with me watching all the X-Men animated series on DVD, right? So, but still, my point being, this is now going to be brought to a much larger audience. But here we are again with my disclaimer about 9.8s. Be very, very careful of the 9.8. I've said it a million times before, and I'll briefly say it again here, with my issues in terms of the extreme subjectivity between a 9.6 and a 9.8, and the volatile market of the 9.8 market right now in general. If you are looking to find this book in a 9.8, and we're sitting at $400 for direct and $800 for a newsstand, I am absolutely sure that there's some higher grade raw books out there that have 9.8 potential that could save you a lot of money. But again, everything's a gamble, because you never know. Even if you press and clean a book, send it into CGC, CBCS, EGS, whatever grading company, you never know what it's going to come back. But just be very careful with this book right now, especially in 9.8. But I do believe this is one that, again, you always hear the term find in the wild. where this book maybe for a long time could have been sitting in some back issue bins and you could still get a really solid deal on it. But I just absolutely loved that this book made the list this week. And I had a feeling last week that it would.
Yeah, that is one of the top 3 announcements from last week, no doubt. So, but $800 for a CGC 9.8 is insane.
Yep.
It is the nostalgia effect. All right, Chris, you have a third book as you do each week. Actually, sometimes you do like 5.
Yeah.
Which is not a knock on you, man. You're very thorough. What do you got for this last book? Your last most interesting book out of this list.
Well, earlier in the show, you thought I was harassing you because I was kind of antagonizing you, but it's because you were being down on yourself. I forget it. Do you remember exactly what you said about your fresh gets?
Oh, yeah, I did.
What'd you say?
I don't know. You crush it every week? I don't know.
No, it was more specifically about you, about how you you were talking down on your fresh gets. And, for those that watch the show, Jeff likes to, grab new releases off the rack. And sometimes you find amazing deals, even on modern spec books, though, in like dollar bins or for cover price.
Yeah.
But guys, my number one pick is the number one book on the list this week, and it was Jeff's Fresh Get last week. So, Jeff, stop knocking yourself because your Fresh Get made number one on not my picks, but the top 10 list.
True.
And that's Strange Academy 13, the Arthur Adams variant. Jeff, pat yourself on the back, man.
Thank you. I am patting myself on the back. You don't want to look at that. You'd rather look at this cover, though, I tell you what.
So, look, I always appreciate when cover art sells, and this is one of those times. But, I mean, a 527% upward trend in sales this week. Wow. High Raws going for $40. And again, I always say this when it comes to variants and stuff like this, but who knows if that $40 is going to hold. I'm sure people are going to be looking to send this out. There's probably a good handful sent out to the grading companies right now. And once those start getting put on the market, we'll probably see, especially in 9.8, we'll probably see some decent prices for those. But again, to me, it's not about value for this book. It's not about it holding the value. It's just about people appreciating and demanding beautiful cover art. And it made the list by a huge margin of units being sold, a huge margin. And keep in mind, my top 3, and this doesn't happen too often, Jeff. I think it may have happened like twice before. My top 3 picks were actually the top 3 of the top 10. So it goes to show you, 3 and 2 were amazing books, in my humble opinion, that saw amazing increases in sales and price. While this book, just in terms of units being sold, just blew everything out of the water. So Arthur Adams doing great things. And Jeff, you called it last week. You pulled this book off the rack for cover price. And, you were talking it up last week, telling everyone why you enjoyed it and why you thought it was hot, and everyone else agreed.
So I guess I had that effect on it. So you're all welcome for those that.
Oh, yeah. So, yep.
Number one. Thank you.
Your fault. Prove.
Art Adams is just outstanding. I've always appreciated Art Adams' work. His X-Men work in the 90s just outstanding. He's just got this unique look to him. It's almost on the verge of cartoonish in a way, but not in a bad way. Does that make sense?
It's a good balance. It's like not too cartoony.
Yeah,
but I see what you. I know what you mean by that.
And I just like he's still doing things. So, anyways, but yeah, so it's nice to see that this was the first, the number one book from the top 10 hottest comics of the week. And go ahead.
But Jeff, now you're going to get accused of pumping and dumping, because you know how people are when people have YouTube channels and do stuff like this. They're gonna be careful, because now they know. Yes. Now they know that you went to every LCS in your area and bought all the copies off the shelf and talked about it on last week's show. And you're the one that's been selling them for $40 a copy.
That's the thing. And that's the interesting thing is like, this book was nothing, right? It was nothing. Nobody cared about it. Nobody put it on there like, oh, check out this book list. It was all over the place, by the way, before this book came out. It was all over the place. So yeah, we're the Pumpers and Dumpers. That's us right here. It's our new hip hop group, the Pumpers and Dumpers.
Pump and dump.
Pump and dump.
Pump and dump.
So there you go. So right there. No, but I mean, it's a sought after book. I think there's a lot of, I'll be honest, Chris, I'm going to say it, and I don't fall into this group, but there's a lot of people that have, there's fetish things going on there with this book. There's anatomy things that go on with this book. So people like that. I like Strange Academy. I'll give you that. Like, I really enjoy Strange Academy. I like Art Adams, and Planet Arizona's the work he did on X-Men Annual 9 was exceptional. A lot of the work he's done is exceptional in his career. And again, I'm really glad. And Mark Lenneker has put this in, like, I guarantee you he's typing this in and cracking himself up. But yeah.
Well, Jeff, I mean, since you bring that up, I do want to speak on something real quick here, because it proves, because there's so many of you out there, and I'm sorry if I may offend you, if some of you are watching, I'm only speaking the truth. I'm only speaking facts. This is proof that I don't want to hear anybody saying that your comics aren't for you anymore. And you know who I'm talking to. You know who you are. Oh, comics, Carol Manvers and all this being, comics. There's still comics out there that are made for you every single week, so you can, have your little happy time and whatever it is, because this is what you like. So don't get mad. Don't get mad because Carol Danvers wears a full body tactical suit these days and got a little bit of a haircut. I don't know. Maybe she grew her hair out again. I don't know. But anyways, that's all I had to say. There's something there for everyone.